Travel along, Catholic pilgrims, as we learn from St. Augustine, Doctor of the Church, while we read his book, Confessions. Hello, Catholic pilgrims. Today's reading is one of the more confusing ones. Now, don't be scared. It's short, so there's not too much time for the mind to wander. However, I wanted to give my reflection beforehand to help us understand what he is talking about. This way you will kind of know what to look for. So I'll explain a little bit and then we'll read and then we'll be done for the day. Okay, so you know that we've been hearing a lot about time. And ultimately what St. Augustine is trying to get us to see is something about God and ourselves as it relates to time. Humans are constantly being pulled through time. We are never able to simply possess our whole lives at once. God, however, doesn't operate that way. We experience our lives in a succession of moments. God possesses the whole of eternity all at once. Now, I don't fully understand how that works, but that's how it works for God. And you'll see here why in just a minute. Today, he's talking about how just the movement of something isn't how we measure time. Like I could walk down the street and time would pass, but time would also pass if I was just lying down. So it's not about material movement, as he mentions. And he's talked about how it's weird that we measure time because really there's nothing to measure, no tangible thing. When I was explaining this to my husband the other night, he was intrigued and he said, yeah, that's true. Time is just the measurement of change. And maybe St. Augustine will get to this, but this is why God must necessarily be out of time. He doesn't change. The other thing is St. Augustine is reflecting upon is the thing that we experience every second of our lives, time, is something that we have an extraordinarily difficult time explaining. We all know it, as St. Augustine has said, but trying to explain what time is a bit difficult. We just don't usually try to do it. So hopefully this helps you get in the right frame of mind for our reading. We are reading from Book 11, Chapter 24, on page 272. It is not your will that I should agree to the proposition that time is constituted by the movement of a material body. For no body moves except in time. I hear your voice which tells me this, but it is not your voice which tells me that the movement of a body itself constitutes time. For when a body moves, it is by time that I measure how long its motion lasts, from the time when it begins to move until its movement ceases. If I do not see when its movement begins, and if its movement continues after I have ceased to watch, so that I do not see when it ends, I am not able to measure it, except perhaps from the time when I begin to watch until the time when I cease watching. If I watch it for any length of time, I can only say that its movement lasts a long time. I cannot say how long that time is because we can only say how long time is when we compare it with a given standard. For example, we say that one period is as long or twice as long as another, and so on. But if we can mark the points in space between which a moving body travels, or, in the case of a body rotating upon its own axis, the distance through which its parts are moving, we can say how much time is needed for the body to complete its movement between the 2 points, or for its parts to complete their revolution. It is clear then that the movement of a body is not the same as the means by which we measure the duration of its movement. This being so, it must be obvious which of the two ought more properly to be called time. The same body may move at different speeds, and sometimes it is at rest, and we measure not only its motion but also its rest by means of time. We say that it was at rest for the same length of time as it was in motion, or that it stood still for twice or 3 times as long as it moved, and so on. whether we can make an exact calculation or a rough estimate, more or less, as the saying goes. Time, therefore, is not the movement of a body. That is all for today, Catholic Pilgrims. I will see you soon, and until then, live the faith boldly and travel well.